Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through an off-market apartment deal that I recently secured for 90,000 euro, including a parking space. I will show you why I bought this property, even though I've never seen the inside, how the rental situation gives me built-in upside, what the real financial numbers look like, and how this deal fits into my long-term portfolio strategy. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Hans. I currently own 15 rental apartments here in Germany with a portfolio value of over 3 million euro. On this channel, I show you the real numbers behind real estate investing, not theory, no hype, but actual deals, contracts, and strategies that I personally use. Before we dive deeper, I also want to briefly mention that I now offer a complete real estate video course designed specifically for beginners. In this course, I walk you step by step through how the market works, how to find properties on ImmoScout, how to analyze deals properly, and how financing and taxes work in practice. We also cover due diligence, apartment viewings, and the full purchase process. The goal is to give you a clear roadmap so you can confidently buy your first rental property instead of guessing your way through it. In this video, I will first explain how I got access to this deal and why relationships with brokers are crucial if you want off-market opportunities. Then I'll describe the building itself and what the WEG protocols reveal about upcoming renovations and financial stability. After that, we will also briefly talk about the special rental situation because the current tenant has lived there for over 20 years and doesn't allow any viewings. Then I'll break down the financials in detail, including purchase price, valuation data from Atlas Immobilien Scout, rent development, financing assumptions, and long-term upside. At the end of the video, I will explain why this deal is strategically stronger than it looks at first glance and why sometimes buying without interior access can still make sense. First, let's talk about how I found this deal. So this apartment was offered to me by a broker with whom I've already completed 4 transactions in the past. Over time, we've built a sort of professional relationship based on reliability, speed, and clear communication. When he has a property that fits my criteria, he immediately contacts me directly before listing it publicly. And that was the case with this apartment as well, which means that it never appeared online and thereby was an off-market opportunity. The building is the same one that I have analyzed in another video. If you haven't watched it, you can check it out here. So I already know the structure, the location, and the overall quality of the construction, but I don't own another unit in this building. Building strong relationships with brokers is one of the biggest competitive advantages in real estate investing. If brokers know that you are serious, financially prepared, and capable of making decisions quickly, you gain access to deals that most other investors never even see. Now let's talk about valuation. Based on Atlas ImmoScout data for this exact micro location and comparable units in the area, the estimated market value of this apartment, including the parking space, is around 135,000 euro. That means I'm buying the apartment for 90,000 euro, which is approximately 45,000 euro below market value. Even if we apply safety margin and let's say assume Atlas data is slightly optimistic, there's still a very significant buffer between my purchase price and the estimated market level. That alone makes the deal structurally attractive. Of course, what needs to be kept in mind here is that I also pay roughly 10,000 euros for the closing costs of this property. So my overall profit is going to be a little bit below 35,000 euro. Now let's talk about the building and the WEG situation. So the building was constructed in 1997, which places it in a comfortable middle ground from an investor's perspective. It is modern enough to avoid major structural risks, typical for older buildings, but not so new that you're actually paying a premium for brand new construction, right? The building is heated with gas and the energy performance certificate shows solid consumption values for its age. Technically speaking, there are no red flags, right? I carefully reviewed the WEG protocols from 2024 and 2025, and there are no major renovations upcoming, such as, let's say, facade renovations or roof replacement or whatsoever. There were just a few discussions about minor technical adjustments or upgrades, but these are manageable and already integrated into the reserve planning. The maintenance reserve has been increased, which shows that the WEG is financially responsible. From a structural and administrative perspective, the building is stable. Now let's address the unusual part of this deal. The current tenant is an elderly lady who has lived in the apartment for roughly 20 years. For some reason, she doesn't allow any viewings, and that means I've never seen the inside of the apartment, right? For many investors, this would be a deal breaker, and potentially rightfully so. However, context matters. First, the building is from 1997. It's highly unlikely that the apartment has severe structural problems, right? At worst, I expect cosmetic renovations in the future, such as, let's say, new flooring, fresh paint, and potentially minor bathroom or kitchen upgrades once the tenant moves out at some point. Second, long-term elderly tenants often take reasonable care of their living space, right? I'm not expecting modern interior design, of course, but I'm also not expecting structural disaster. And this situation creates temporary uncertainty, but it also often creates price advantages because many buyers are uncomfortable with this limited access. And that's actually the case here as well, right? The market price for this apartment would be significantly higher, as I described previously, but I'm buying it for 90,000 euros due to also this limitation. Now let's talk about the rent situation and the legal upside. So the current cold rent after the latest increase is approximately 391 euro per month. The rent was increased by 15% recently, but before that it had remained largely unchanged for many years. Under German rental law, I can increase rent again within 3 years, as long as the increase stays within the legally allowed limits and below the local comparative rent, or Mietspiegel. Given the current rent level and the market data in this area, the apartment is still clearly below market rent, even after the most recent increase in 2023. As I just mentioned, immediately after the purchase, I plan to increase the rent by 15%, which would move it to approximately 450 euro per month. At that level, the property is close to break even in terms of cash flow. After 3 years, I'll increase the rent again within the legally allowed limits. At that point, the property will be very clearly cash flow positive. From that moment onward, every additional rent increase strengthens the monthly surplus further. This is not speculative rent growth, right? It's legally structured, predictable development based on the current rent being clearly below market value. Now, let's look at the numbers. So the purchase price is 90,000 euro, including the parking space. Closing costs are another, let's say 10%, which adds another 9,000 to 10,000 euro. That means the total investment is roughly 100,000 euro. If we assume financing at 4% interest and 1.5% repayment, the total annual burden is 5.5% of the financed amount. On 90,000 euro, that equals to roughly 5,000 euro per year, or approximately 410 euros per month. The current rent of 390 euro doesn't fully cover that amount. However, after the immediate 15% increase to roughly 450 euro, the gap is essentially closed, right? After 3 years, once the next increase is implemented, the property will be clearly cash flow positive, even before considering tax effects and depreciation. From that point onward, the monthly surplus will steadily increase. In addition to that, I'm buying approximately 45,000 euro below estimated market value, or 35,000 including the closing costs, according to Atlas Immobilien Scout data. That gives me a significant equity buffer from day one. So this deal is not about maximizing cash flow in year one, right? It's about buying significantly below market value, securing legally structured rent growth, and minimizing structural risk. Buying without seeing the inside wasn't a gamble. It was a calculated decision based on construction year, WEG stability, tenant history, and purchase price relative to market value. Many investors focus only on cosmetic uncertainty. Experienced investors, however, focus on structural safety margins and legal frameworks. And that's it for this week's video. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.